Hey folks, it's Dag. So what we're going to do today is talk about my Hangar 9 OV-10 Bronco. But first, do me a favor folks, I'm trying to build this channel up to basically make enough money to pay for the hobby. Okay, so please like and subscribe. Most of you watching haven't subscribed because I can look at the analytics. Please subscribe so you can see what I'm doing and get the updates. And if you're on the mobile app, I always want to say app, please hit the hype, because that helps the YouTube algorithms know that I'm an aviation nut, you're an aviation nut, and we need to get together. So, folks, one of the reasons I got this airplane is about 15, 20 years ago, I got tired of building kits because honestly, they didn't fly as good as I would like. So I decided to start designing and engineering my own airframes. And the MSL-1 was the first one that I really truly went 100% from scratch on giant scale. Had a 197-inch wing. I flew it over 1,350 flights, and it was just so sweet. It was just a great flying airplane. Then I built the MSL-2. Again, perfect wing size, perfect incidences, perfect tail, vertical, power. It flew sweet. But I was at SEFF probably 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and I saw the Horizon guys flying these. And I gotta be honest, I was watching Trixie Dynamite fly. Now, if you don't know who Trixie Dynamite is, folks, I'm going to explain in just a minute, okay? And it's kind of a joke. But, folks, this airplane is so sexy in the air. If you hang around to the end, I'll show you a whole bunch of still pictures of it in the air that were taken by one of our club members at the club I belong to named Rick. I'm trying to get video, and actually this weekend, folks, I'm going to put a lot of onboard video where I strap cameras to this and try to get some really neat video. But basically, folks, I decided to take a chance at an ARF. Just because when I watched it fly, I knew it had to be a beautiful flying airplane. Okay, sure, pilots are good, but the plane just looked so comfortable in the air. So I created a top 10 list because you, my followers, have said, please tell us why you love the OV-10 so much. Tell us more about it. A lot of people are thinking about buying it, and they're kind of on the edge. First of all, you got to buy it. Okay. Your kids don't need dental work. Your kids don't need, glasses. Buy the OV-10. I'm kidding, folks. But I'm telling you, it's not a cheap airplane. You're going to spend about $2,000 and then another $500 for the gear. And then you're going to put 16 servos. If you put really good high voltage servos, you're going to have another $1,500. By the time you're done with it, you're going to have about $4,000 in it. That's not cheap. And I know not everybody can afford it. But for those that can, this airplane is going to make you a rock star. So the top 10 reasons I love this airplane. Number one, and folks, this may be totally politically incorrect, but when I was in high school, I was a complete nerd. President of the Rocket Club, flying a lot of control line airplanes, just starting to get into radio control gliders. But in school, I was a total nerd. I had this little group of people that I was friends with, but when we got invited to a party, everybody wanted to go to that party with the prettiest girl. And I made up one day with my friends sitting at McDonald's saying, I wish we had like a girl like Trixie Dynamite. Everyone's like, well, who's Trixie Dynamite? And it was just a name I made up. It was like this really hot girl in high school, Trixie Dynamite. So I've always joked that when you go to an airfield with an airplane that everybody wants to see, it's like you're bringing Trixie Dynamite to the club. I know that's weird, but folks, everybody drools on this airplane. This has so much conversation power. Every time I show up at a fly-in or anything, everybody just looks at this plane and says, holy cow, that is beautiful. And folks, I'm the kind of person who really tries to stay out of the whole ego thing, but it sure doesn't hurt this plane being so sexy. I mean, it's absolutely kick-ass. So that's number one. Number two, scale realism. All these rivets, all this weathering is printed on this material that they cover the airplane with. It's insanely cool. The cockpit detail for an ARF, extremely cool. I mean, folks, this airplane, it just blew me away. I always thought I'd have to design and build my own airplane to end up with something like this, okay? Number three, I'm flying my electric, okay? I've got two Hacker A60-16Ls in there. I'm turning 1913 props, and it is sweet. I get about a 6 to 7 minute flight, and then I have 2 go-arounds reserve. I've gotten almost a 10-minute flight out of it where I was down to 3.74 volts per cell, which is still okay. But if you fly at scale, you can get a very long flight time out of this. I'm flying in 12S at 5,200 milliamp packs. I pull about 78 amps per motor on takeoff, and it is just a beautiful setup. I have, even though the motors only pull 78 amps, I have 120 amp speed controllers in there. I always like to have the extra headroom. So, and that's another thing is, folks, you just get the airframe, the ESC, motor, radio, 16 servos, all of that stuff you're going to have to put in this. It took me about 6 weeks to put this together, and that wasn't full time. I have a real job, and I just tried to do it when I had free time. And as far as the motor in it, I know there's a lot of people that put gas motors in this, and then I think that's really cool too. So I think it's pretty versatile with whatever power package you want to put in it. Okay. The plug-in wing design is really cool. Got to be honest, I didn't know if I would like it when I opened up and started building the kit. You have wing tubes you slide in, then you slide on the wing, but there's two little pins that stick out that go inside the outboard wing. You go up with an Allen key and you tighten an Allen bolt, and it basically closes a little clamp around that pin and keeps the wing from sliding out. I didn't know if I'd like it. I love it. It's a brilliant way to do it, and it's absolutely awesome. It's a super strong airframe, and the build quality in it is excellent. Folks, I don't know how they do this in a factory, but basically it's a plywood and balsa wood airplane with some fiberglass that has like black resin. Some people think it's carbon fiber, but you really don't like to put too much carbon fiber in an airplane because it will screw up the radio signals. And I've tried to put magnets and stuff around it. I'm almost positive it's black resin epoxy to make it look like carbon fiber, but there's some glass in this too, basically like the honeycomb looking stuff. Number 7, it's stable in the air. It is one of the most rock solid airframes I've ever flown. Folks, this thing's a pig. It's 48 pounds. But that big old wing, that 108-inch wing with this airfoil, it doesn't care. Sometimes, folks, when I'm at like a fly-in, I'll make it all dirty. Drop the gear, drop full flaps. I'll come by and people are like, I can't believe it flies so slow. It is insane the lift that comes out of this wing. When Hangar 9 built this wing, they absolutely hit a home run on this wing. Okay? And when I take it up, folks, every time I test fly an airplane, I normally do 5 or 10 test flights. And there's kind of a regiment I go through. One of them is slow flying, clean, gear up, flaps up, see what the stall characteristics are. And the plane doesn't really even wobble. It just mushes over. Okay? I tried doing what I call a deep stall, where you're stalling and then you just yank up on the stick. And even that, it just went like that and flew out. It never rolled on its back. Now, I did some stalls in curves and got it to, while turning right, adding a lot of rudder, got it to stall and roll on its back. But it's absolutely a rock-solid airframe, even with the bombs and missiles on. Oh, and by the way, the bombs and rocket pods, I 3D printed an ad. I'll talk about those in a little bit in a minute. The missiles come on it. And actually, I created some chaff and flare dispensers if I didn't tell you that already. So it flies absolutely awesome. It's forgiving. It lands very slow. It's an awesome airframe. And then when I think about scale features, I know I talked about the covering in the cockpit, but the flaps are awesome. The landing gear are awesome. The landing gear doors are awesome. There's some really neat scale things. Now, I did 3D print and design, I designed in Fusion 360, my own rocket pods, my own bombs, my own ordnance pylons, and my chaff dispensers. And the bombs, folks, basically are the Mark 82s. And they're really, really sweet. The rocket pods are the 2.75. I can't remember what they're called. And then the chaff dispenser is just, and it took me forever, folks. I actually did a YouTube video, I think, on finding the chaff dispenser stuff. I'm almost positive I did. But you can really dress this up. Folks, I love to buy an airplane sometimes and really detail it out. I don't know if it may not be good enough to enter a scale competition, but the leeway you have on this airframe being so big is really, really sweet. Number 9, inside the fuselage, inside the booms are so much room to put radio, gear, fuel tanks, batteries. This is such a spacious interior. I'm really hoping, folks, in the next 12 months I can afford to buy another one. I know that sounds insane, but I'm going to pull this covering off, and I'm going to put 3/4 ounce glass cloth and resin on it. I'm going to paint it gray, make it the Air Force colors, but I'm going to make an actual scale cockpit in this. There's so much room, because behind the cockpit is where you can put your ESCs and your batteries and stuff. And folks, somebody warned me that this is a nose-heavy airplane. I didn't believe them. They're totally right. My batteries for this are almost at the back of where the rear of the canopy is there. This plane CGs out so nicely when you're doing electric. I don't know about gas because I didn't do gas. And then number 10, it's an OV-10. There's not a lot of Bronco kits out there, not a lot of Bronco ARFs out there. Most of the time you have to scratch build one. And folks for Hangar 9 and Horizon to come up with this and have such a straight, strong, sweet airframe, it's unbelievable. It's truly, I mean, folks, normally I have to build my own airplane to get this kind of quality. And this is absolutely kick-ass. Now, to be fair, I want to talk about, hang on a minute. I want to talk about things I've heard people say about the airplane, or questions I've gotten at the flying field, okay? One is, it's got a really heavy wing load compared to other twins. I would like somebody to show me the facts on that. Because when you really do the cube wing loading on this airplane, it's about the middle of a sport type airplane, maybe closer to a warbird. And if you're comparing it to like my Flex Otter, which is super, super light, yeah, this would have a higher wing load. But they're two totally different airplanes. This is scale. That's a yank and bank, and basically have an epileptic seizure airplane. I mean, all my Flex airplanes are made to just go completely spastic with. They're not really made to fly super scale. When you see this fly, folks, and please wait around to the end, look at some of the pictures of it flying, because I've actually done a couple of black and white ones that say Da Nang, like 1970, to kind of look like an old Vietnam picture. But folks, this airplane to me is not a heavy wing load. So whoever's saying that, I don't think's ever flown one of these or don't know what they're talking about. The complexity of twin makes it impossible for people to fly. Again, maybe if you're gas and you don't know how to tune gas engines. Folks, I grew up on glow. Then I went to gas. Then I went to electric. I've got over 45 years doing this. I loved gas when I flew gas. I loved glow when I loved glow, except having to clean up all that oil shit off the bottom of my airplane, okay? But the thing is that with electrics, everybody goes, oh, it's so much more reliable than gas. I don't know if that's true, folks, because when I got my gas engines to run right, they never died. My glow engines, I would never build a glow twin, okay? I really wouldn't, because glows are just too fickle, okay? But gas, you could probably go gas and not ever have an engine failure if you know how to tune it. On electric, as long as you know the motor, the right KV, the right speed controller, and the right battery setup, you should never have a motor failure, okay? But folks, sometimes people say, oh, okay, it's going to pull 80 amps. I'm going to get a 90 amp speed controller. I would never do that, because you don't know if the manufacturer of that speed controller really truly has 100% power at 90 amps and for how long. So I've got a 120 amp speed controller in here. I pull about anywhere from 78 to 80 amps, I think it is, on takeoff, okay? So the complexity of a twin, I think, is a kind of a BS statement. Shorter flight times when you fly it aggressive. Folks, any electric airplane, I have a plane I call the lead sled. And it's basically a Vante that I glass cloth painted, and I'm purposely trying to make it 1.5 pounds heavy to prove that you can dick around with a model airplane and it will still fly great, okay? My Avante, I did a couple of tests where I took off at full throttle and flew 3 circuits and landed, and I think it was like 1 minute and 30 seconds or something like that. And my batteries were at 3.65 volts, okay? Not gonna hurt them on the low side. When I normally fly my Avante, I get a 10-minute flight out of it, just cruising around at a 3rd throttle. Now, if I'm gonna go vertical and do loops, I get a 6-minute flight. Any electric that you just hammer it, go balls to the walls, wide open, you are going to have a shorter flight time. Now with gas, you can put a big fuel tank in there and fly around for 20 minutes probably if you want. but this plane does not need aggressive power just to fly. I fly this normally at about 40% throttle. I think I said earlier, I get a 6-minute flight as nominal. I can go 8-minute and still have 1 or 2 go-arounds before I pull my voltage down below 3.7. Okay, and folks, I've tested that a lot on this airplane. It loves to fly. I think it likes to be in the air more than it likes to sit on the ground. Expensive to maintain and repair. I don't know where that comes from. Now look, I will be very transparent with you. My number 2 engine started squealing some on me when I was flying it. These Hangar motors are almost 15 years old. And I knew it in my mind, it's got to be that rear bearing, because on certain Hangars they have a rear bearing. If you're going to do like 3D, you don't want the gyroscopics to bend the motor mount. And the thing is I thought it was that back bearing. I was totally wrong. When I pulled the motor out and looked, the front bearing was completely rusted up. I know that motor's never been underwater. I have no idea where my Hangar sat to rust up that bad. I should have visually inspected it before I put it in the airplane. I had a couple of extra Hangar A60s laying around, and I decided to, sorry folks, we got a guest popping in here, my Bernese Mountain Dog. Don't know if you can see him. But essentially, folks, I swapped out the motors. That's the only real issue I had with what I call expensive to maintain. Another thing is, folks, I was kind of dumb when I put this airplane together. I have 120 some servos laying around from all the years I've done this. I used some really cheap servos on the landing gear doors. And what I didn't realize, they weren't high voltage. And if I can find the picture, I'll show you. I actually had a servo melt. It melted the case. I mean, the insides were trying to melt and drip out of the servo. So please, buy new servos, buy high voltage servos, make sure they're the right torque, and look, basically it's in the directions of the book, okay? And then somebody said engine out scenarios are very challenging. Folks, if you really truly have an engine fail on a model airplane and it's a twin, you better be hauling ass and see for 2 seconds if you can fly it. If you're slow, you're doomed. Pull back the other engine and land straight ahead, or land in the direction you're going, okay? It's very hard because you can't feather the prop on a model airplane. I had an old Goldberg Duelist a long time ago that I tried to fly on one engine. I've had a lot of multi-engine airplanes in my life, and none of them fly well on one engine unless you already have a boatload of speed going and you've got a lot of rudder. That's another thing on twins, folks. Make sure you use all the rudder you can, because if you ever did have an engine failure or blew a prop off, that rudder's your friend. I've seen a lot of friends lose twins because they didn't have enough rudder to try to compensate the yaw when you lose a motor. But folks, you should never lose a motor on these if we're doing it right, okay? I will tell you one thing, folks. If you're going to buy one of these, you want to try to leave the airframe put together and only take off the wings. If you're going to take the booms off, it's going to take you 30 minutes to put the booms on, connect all the wires right. I would say if you don't have a trailer to carry this in, you don't want this airplane. In what I mean by that, folks, is every time you put a connector together and take it apart, you're slowly wearing out the connectors. If you pinch something, if you don't get something connected right, this airplane, I built cradles for my trailer, and hopefully you'll see pictures up here of it sitting in the cradle. I can roll it backwards into the styrofoam rear supports, then lift up the front, slide in the front cradle, use Velcro straps, screw it down. It takes me 15 minutes to get this in and out of the trailer, another 5 minutes to put the wings on it, and then it takes me 30 minutes to charge batteries, and I'm ready to go flying. But I don't know how to be clear enough with you that if you want to break this whole airframe down and throw it in your car and take it to the field, it's going to be a lot of work, okay? That is probably one of the only drawdowns, but most of the people I know that's going to buy an airframe this big has a trailer or a means to move it around. I think if you had one of the long vans where you could take the nose and put it up between the two front seats, you probably could get this in a van, okay? And if you need any of those measurements, my email's on my YouTube. Email me. I'll measure whatever you want, and I'll send you the dimensions, and we'll see if we can get it in your van, okay? But folks, that's basically it. Another thing is, folks, and this is the nerd in me, for all of my large airframes, I get an aircraft logbook. You can get these on Amazon. I don't remember how much they cost. They're not expensive. And I actually put in all the servos I'm using, all the motors, all the ESCs, everything in this. But every flight I take, every takeoff and landing, I put in here and how much time. And anything that broke, like my servo that melted, that's in here. Changing out my motor, that's in here. The reason I do this, folks, it's kind of fun a year and a half from now when you're still flying it, that you start looking and realizing that, you know, you're creating a heck of a log of the life of this airplane. And I know that's nerdy, but I love to do it. So look, folks, again, please like and subscribe. I have so many people that watch my videos that aren't subscribing to my videos, and I want you to see the updates. I'm really turning around the way I've had this channel for probably 18 years, but I decided a month ago that I'm going to dedicate a ton of time to doing at least 3 videos a week, maybe more. And I want to be able to share everything I've done with you all. Because folks, there's this really weird thing about our aviation community is we're all learning from each other. I mean, in the comments below, if you think this is a shitty video, tell me it's a shitty video. If you think it's a great video, tell me it's a great video. If you got questions about the airplane, ask them in the description below. There are no stupid questions, only stupid, no, I'm kidding. Folks, just put everything in the description below if you want to. And look, folks, I just want to share all the coolness that I do in this industry with you all. And hopefully this weekend, folks, I'm going to mount some cameras. I got these little bitty cameras off Amazon. I'm going to have like 8 of them, like one mounted here looking back, one on the wing. They're little bitty, folks. They don't even probably weigh 1.5 ounces. And they only can record something like 17 minutes. They're just really weird little, I found them on Amazon. And there may be as many as 8 little cameras mounted to this. But the resolution's terrible on them. But it's going to look like 1969, 1970 Da Nang, Vietnam on this airplane. Except in the background, you might see the flying field and cars, and you might see an R for a carbon cub in the air and stuff. But yeah, folks, that's it. So look, thanks so much for watching my videos. Again, if you're on the mobile app, please hype the video, okay? Have an awesome day, folks. I'll see you next time. I have some really exciting videos coming up. The 10 biggest reasons we burned down our house, and where do LiPos fall in that top 10. Folks, I'm really amped up on all these naysayers about LiPos, okay? And I'm going to get out there and share my real history with LiPos. But one real quick thing about LiPos. LiPos can be absolutely handled 100% safely. But they're extremely volatile when you really think about how many amps can be drained out of one instantly if you like damage one. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying, oh, LiPos are 100% safe. You can throw one in the drawer or drive a nail through it and it's going to be fine. You still have to understand how to handle them. Okay? Rock on, folks. Have a great day. Again, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.